Hey, Chris Manning here, Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Perhaps you're catching us wherever you listen to podcasts, or perhaps you're catching us on YouTube, joined as always by my partner in crime. It's Evan Dammarell. Today, we're going to talk about two wings, Denzel Valentine, who has the amount of confidence everyone should aspire to. We're going to talk about Dylan Windler. We're going to who JB Bickerstaff is moving well, and perhaps we'll talk about some suits as well. It's all coming up today on Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Evan. I just want to open up with one simple question, okay? And we'll dive into the show with Denzel Valentine, Jetty Osman, Dylan Windler, all that stuff. If there was a Cleveland Cavaliers player who would have been most likely to attend a Phoebe Bridgers show, who is it?
Probably Dean Wade or Kevin Love.
That was my answer. Dean Wade's like a big fan of like the Weeknd House of Balloons trilogy, so like he likes sad music.
Dude, okay, well, I have a question for you. What was your favorite part of the concert?
Seeing you.
Oh, mine was the trumpet. I mean, other than seeing you, but that trumpet guy was so good.
So you couldn't hear this because you were
video I filmed.
So you couldn't hear like what I was talking about with my buddy Kevin, who was there with us, but that was what we were geeking at. Like the addition of the trumpet into various Phoebe Bridgers songs is like a really, really nice touch. And I love that she was like messing with the form and tempo and sound of songs instead of just playing you back what is on the record. So
I also thought it was cool when she had like a goof and she's just like, I fucked up, but thanks for saving me up there.
Yeah, I also a lot of people. I did notice a lot of people wearing Cavs stuff actually. So like 4 or 5 Cavs masks.
Yeah, I did too. I noticed it too.
And friend of the pod, Michael Curry, View from 216 on Twitter was like up there. So if anyone ever sees this places, say hi. We're mostly friendly people.
No, I bumped into a few folks when I'm out and about downtown, and they're like, "Hey, are you Evan Dammarell?" I'm just like, "Yes," because I fear it up. Because I fear if they're a Sexton stan. No, it happened when I was at a brewery with some folks not too long ago, and the guy who's cashing his salt's like, "Hey, do you host Locked On Cavs?" He's like, "I think I follow you on Twitter." I'm just like, "Oh yeah, man, what's up?" Like, thanks for listening, I appreciate it. He's like, "Could you follow me back?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course," because I paid for drinks and my name was on the card, so I'm just like, "All right, cool." Yeah,
that's how I just walk out without responding. But Evan, let's move on. We killed some time.
You don't even grab your card. You just walk out.
No, I grabbed my card.
And you have to walk back into the restaurant. Like, oh, sorry, I forgot this.
Yeah, because Lane wouldn't do for me. All right, so let's talk about Denzel Valentine, irrational confidence king, Denzel Valentine.
Apparently, why don't an uncommon thing for him?
Okay, but why don't you talk about explain what he said on Wednesday? We haven't talked about this yet, and then explain sort of the reaction to some of the quote that happened on the website that is twitter.com.
So he was kind of just having like a heart-to-heart with the media when he came on, and he was talking about how like he played with 2 Hall of Famers and Rajon Rondo and Dwayne Wade, and he also played. Did he play with Jimmy Butler?
Yeah, I think he was probably there for the 3 Alphas.
Yeah, he was there for the 3 Wolves team, so he played with Jimmy Butler too. So he played at 3 Hall of Fame. He's talking about how
3 Alphas, okay, 3 Alphas, and the Jim Boylan's Leadership Council.
I know. So
Leadership Council, baby.
I think Lowry and Denzel escaped that mess. I know Jim Boylan's gone, but I think the after effects are going to be there forever. It's like cancer; you just can't cut it all out. But he's just riffing, going on and on about how he played with like 3 Hall of Fame players at the time, and then he had the ankle injury, and it's just kind of like really been setting him back. He's even leaving as a freshman. Like, okay, yeah, this all makes sense. Like, this is just general stuff. And then I'm like listening, and somebody asks him like, well, there's a bit of a battle for the backup wing spot. What do you bring to the table that's unique? He's like, well, I can play 1 through 4 and I can defend 1 through 4. And he's like, despite what happened in Chicago, I'm a winning player. And I'm like, okay, there's a little spice here. So I just like smacking away on my keyboard like I do. So when I write stories or feed the story, just bang on it until something comes out. That's where the podcast money goes. Is I buy a new computer and Chris buys new Cybertrucks all the time. Yeah. But I tweeted that out, and then Nakai saw it and just went, huh. And then several other folks saw it and were just like running with it. And apparently he's just like an irrational confidence king all the time. I chuckled because I'll be frank, I think Denzel Valentine will hardly touch the floor for the Cavaliers. I just think in the grand scheme of life, I think Jetty Osman, Lamar Stevens are much better, and even Dylan Windler are probably better options. Like, I'd rather take a stab at Dylan Windler than I would Denzel Valentine at this point, just to figure out what you have there. But I just laughed about it, but some people took it, like Bulls fans took it the wrong way, and they were dragging him about it. And then I don't know. I think it's funny. Like, Mac Robinson really wanted to ask him a question because JB Bickerstaff made a point during his availability because they asked, like, well, how's Denzel look so far? And he's like, oh, he's looking like he's just a gritty defender. He's tough. He is athletic at times. He shows some shooting stroke. And he's like, oh, it's because he went to Michigan State. Like, JB was making like a tongue-in-cheek thing that he went to Michigan State for 4 years. And then Mac wanted to ask him, Denzel, like, how similar is JB to Tom Izzo? Because, and if we got that answer, if we found out JB Bickerstaff was similar to Tom Izzo, Dan Gilbert would extend JB Bickerstaff and make him coach for life.
Just team president.
Team president of basketball operations, JB Bickerstaff, John Blair Bickerstaff. They didn't call him JB anymore. It's John Blair every time. You like John Blair, Evan Dammarell, Facebook News.
John Blair Bicker. You got to see the full thing.
John Blair Bickerstaff, JBB. But it's just goofy stuff. I really don't think there's much to glean from it. Like, this is a dude who probably has to bet on himself at this point because the ankle injury really did set him back. Plus, he's just not a very good player. And yeah, like, there is the video of him taking that shot against Miami, and you're like, what are we doing here? I think basketball IQ is a tricky thing to talk about sometimes. Like, it can, like, I don't know. In my opinion, sometimes it can have some racist connotations too, because you say like a black player doesn't have a high basketball IQ, you're saying they're stupid or something. But like, that was just a dumb play. And Denzel has a lot of dumb plays, and he said a lot of dumb things apparently while he was in Chicago. He's just sort of like irrationally confident, but I respect it at the same time because this is likely one of his last shots at making it with an NBA team. And if you're a team like, if you don't make it with a team like Cleveland, who has a dire need for depth on the wing, you're kind of SOL then, and maybe consider going overseas or something at that point.
Yeah, I think it was interesting for me to like see him talked about kind of the way he talked about. If you want to look at like what JB said about Lamar, it kind of sounds to me like Lamar may have to maybe not has to like show that he's got to get ahead of someone like Denzel. Because
we're pivoting to this now. Okay.
Well, no, I think they kind of go together because I think like Denzel is going to be a guy that's going to get. I could see him getting a chance ahead of Lamar at least. Like I would wonder if Denzel's a little higher on the pecking order right now, just because of whatever kind of is kind of there. And I mean, like, we'll talk about Dylan Windler later in the show, but it's like I think Valentine has a chance to be at least like useful. I tend to, I should say at least like get a chance to like show
Denzel Valentine. I'm just like, what? If it works, that's great. But if it doesn't, oh well. It's not like it's gonna kill me.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean like much.
This is the Cavs Dante Exum project. Like,
well, it's Dante Exum and like it's yeah, it's like cheaper. I think it's
very cheap Dante Exum, but
yeah. Well, none of the backups to Okoro, aside from Jetty, have like real price tags on them, and I just wonder if like Denzel is like an older guy might get more of a chance. It kind of sounds like he's gonna at least get some chances. I would also note that like I would wonder if we see a world where more of these guys maybe play than we think in small bursts, because JB kind of talked about how like guys that aren't just like a 3, like, or they're just like they can play 2-3 or if they can play 2-3-4 or whatever, that gives them some cover. And I wonder if we see some of that, because I mean, like, we would say the locks for the rotation would be, Garland, Sexton, Okoro, Mobley, Allen, Lowry, Marketing, Kevin Love on the nights he plays. And then you kind of like get into in Rubio, and then you kind of get into like you have 2 spots there, right? I think if I'm counting correctly. And then like on the nights Kevin plays, you have another probable spot in the rotation. I think you're going to just see a bunch of different stuff. Is sort of my guess here, and I think I think we're going to see some mixing and matching. And Valentine, I think I would guess, just like if we're reading the comments, and obviously we don't get to see practice and all that stuff, I tend to think that I would bet Valentine right now might be a little bit higher on the pecking order than Lamar and like Dean Wade. I think like it might go like Jetty and Windler, and then it's like Valentine, and then but like that could be wrong. You know what I mean? Like I don't think we exactly know.
Yeah, that's true. And let's say Denzel doesn't work out with the Cavs. General managers may ask the questions to find the right players like Denzel and ask themselves, do they have ice in their veins? And when they're hiring, they can use Indeed assessments to make sure they find the candidates with the skills they need. When hiring gets hard, you need Indeed, the job site that makes hiring incredibly simple. Just attract, interview, and hire. In fact, with Indeed, you can do all of your hiring in one place, even interviewing. Don't just hope for your perfect candidate they will find you. Indeed's hiring tools help you cut through the noise to hire faster and smarter. In fact, Indeed Instant Match provides a list of quality candidates whose resumes are on Indeed the moment you post a sponsored job. So, folks, if you're a general manager happening to listening and Denzel Valentine has his resume on Indeed for God knows what reason, you'll match them right away. Get started right now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/locked. Get a $75 credit at Indeed.com/locked. That one more time for the folks at home, Indeed.com/locked. Offer valid through September 30th. So it's expired today, but that's okay. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Also, got to tell everyone about our friends at Built Bar. And look, Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar on the market. They have coconut, cherry barcia, raspberry, mint brownie. They just dropped a limited edition cherry lime flavor. They had a salted pretzel flavor that seems pretty interesting.
The salted pretzel one slaps. The cherry lime one gave me pause because I like cherry limeade a lot, but with chocolate it might be weird. But Built Bar makes everything taste amazing. It is literally the best tasting protein bar ever, folks.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So look, my favorite flavor, I cookie dough chunk I literally ordered like 3 boxes that are just, so I'm like stocked up for the apocalypse on that. But look, 17 grams
I've been conserving my rations because in a post-apocalyptic world, the chocolate-covered cookie dough chunk will become the modern currency of America. Thanks to Built Bar.
It's the new gold standard. But 18 grams of protein, calories ranging from 130 to 180, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, and only 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. And Built Bar is also the official protein bar of the U.S. track and field team. So go to Built.com, promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order for 15% off at Built.com. Evan, let's go to Dylan Windler. So JB Bickerstaff had a quote from Thursday where he was talking about Dylan Windler moving. And I got a eye emoji tweet from friend of the program, Carter Rodriguez. Basically, like if looking at Windler as a guy who can like run. Here's the exact quote. Every day we track the distance of guys, how much they've run, and how he's like the guy who runs the most. I think that he ran 7 miles in practice, so he's looked good. He's moving well, looks really efficient in his movements. I think I'm going to say like kind of a sort of twofold thing here. Number one, I think that's good. If Windler can be healthy and his body looks right, and that is actually true, and it remains true, good sign for Dylan. Happy for him. This is a really, really pivotal year for his career. If he's going to stick in the league, like this is a year where it kind of has to happen. I also just I just need to see it. He can say that. They were effusive with him last year in praise. I really need to see Dylan do it in the preseason and into the regular season if this is going to be something that we need to actually view as like a real thing.
Yeah, and I think they need to handle Dylan with kid gloves to start things out. Like they can't just throw him into the fire because it's not the physical recovery at this point. It's also the mental recovery for Dylan. Like that's where I empathize with Kevin Love a lot too, the frustration in the situation, because injury after injury after injury can force you to retire. Like I know NFL players retire more often than that. Like Luke Kuechly was at the apex of his career, but he was dealing with concussions all the time and he retired. Like it's just the struggle. And Andrew Luck, like his constant injuries forced him into an early retirement too, because he's just like every setback just became harder and harder. And I think that's where I empathize with Dylan and players like Kevin Love too, who are just like oft injured players. And like if the Cavs want to set him up for success, one, getting him looks on the perimeter instead of using. I mean, like JB mentioned, he wants to use him as a slasher still, and use his ability as with active hands on defense and as like a pretty good rebounder for his position. But getting him easy looks on the perimeters to get him comfortable out there should be the first major step, and then slowly integrate him back in, because I want Dylan Windler to be a key part of this team. In theory, Dylan Windler makes this team so much better. Like so much so his technical rookie season when he was injured the entire year, there was the belief that he was to plant Colin Sexton and start alongside Darius Garland in the backcourt, because Dylan Windler is just a big he answers a lot of the questions the Cavs have in terms of wing depth, perimeter shooting, and just so many other little things that I want it to work, but the injuries setbacks have just been really hard, and you just have to like make sure that physically he feels comfortable and then mentally he feels comfortable at all, and just don't overwhelm him when he gets back out there on the floor. And like 7 miles a day is great, but I need to see it too. Like I wish I could run 7 miles a day. I genuinely do, but physically you got to make sure like you're actually doing something with purpose to like Colin Sexton to say he has to be moving with a purpose.
I just think we really need to see just him kind of be like able to just stay. I think it's just staying in the court, but I also just think like if we're thinking about like we've talked about this a lot, but and it's just one of those things where like a lot of the stuff with the Cavs. I think like we'll get into some more detailed season preview stuff next week. We will do a little more like kind of hardcore preview stuff, but like I think like there's a world where like if he can just be healthy and shoot, like I just think you could pencil him in for a rotation spot. Like this team just so clearly needs like shooting that like if he can actually just like be healthy and like make catch and shoot threes and like be passable on defense and stuff, like and play some minutes at the 2, play some minutes at the 3, like it would just help so much because if like Mobley's not going to be able to shoot right away, and like there's nights where Kevin isn't going to play or whatever, like just having another guy that can like space around your bigs is just going to be really key. I mean,
like Markkanen and Garland, like you need other shooters.
Once and yeah, so like right now, like so much of the brunt of the pressure on 3-point stuff is it's based on it's Markkanen, it's Garland, it's Colin Sexton. Like those are the 3 guys that are going to play a lot of minutes, that are kind of the guys you need to stretch everything out for everyone else. If Windler can be a guy that can do that, and like, you know, maybe Okoro takes a leap, we'll see. He returned to practice, which is really good to see. So glad Isaac is back in the action here. I kind of just want to see like if Windler could be that kind of presence. I think that would be really interesting, just because I think he's a guy that like has just a skill set that we've been saying this for the 2 years he's been a Cav, and it just hasn't happened, obviously, due to injuries and everything. But like it's a skill set that if he's on the floor, it's like, oh, like I can see how this could be a guy that can play 15, 20 minutes a night for you and have a niche for himself.
Yeah, I just want him to be properly utilized. I think my fear is with how vanilla JB Bickerstaff's offense was last year, we're not going to see Dylan properly utilized, and then something's going to happen again. And like, I'm knocking on my desk right now that it doesn't happen.
Can I ask a follow up here?
Sure.
Let me just ask as we kind of wrap up this Windler segment. If JB has said about the offense ends up holding true to some degree.
Chris, I have a counterpoint to this.
No, let me ask the question first.
Go ahead.
If the offense does evolve in the way that JB is sort of talking about and is indicated, does that make you more optimistic about what Windler's sort of role could be?
No, because JB's offensive approach, I started piecing things together on my own, where he says the Cavs need to play with more pace. They need to shoot more threes. You're like, great. Those are things that you need to be doing, because you were the worst 3-point shooting team in the league last year, and you play lethargically slow because you're playing through Andre Drummond and Kevin Love, mostly Andre Drummond, like that kills your pace. Then like 5 minutes later, he says, well, it's not always about threes, and I don't understand the fetishization of threes. The battles are won in the paint. And today they said their focus was establishing a presence in the paint and then kicking out for threes. Cleveland hasn't done enough this offseason to establish a rotation where they can say, okay, we can dominate the paint, whether it's Allen or Mobley or Allen and Mobley, and then kick out to our bevy of 3-point shooters. It's the same offensive approach the Cavs had last season, where like at their apex, they're like, okay, we're going to have Andre Drummond or Jared Allen bully the hell out of their center, or have Colin Sexton attacking the basket. So they have to collapse on the paint to protect the basket. And then they're able to kick out to a 3-point shooter. We saw the Cavs hit that a few times last year. We're like, okay, this Cavs team is clicking on all cylinders. It rarely happened though, because the Cavs don't have reliable 3-point shooters, and they still don't. So yeah, if they use Dylan Windler in that role, yeah, I think that makes sense. But I just don't think the Cavs have the personnel to make it happen still. Like they're still like a move or two away to add. Like they need like 2 more shooters in this rotation to generally have JB's offensive approach. And let's say Colin takes more threes, I'll shut up. If they have Darius take more threes, I'll shut up. But like those two need to be a little less gun shy, and maybe Markkanen, being an upgrade over Nance, because Nance was like the most shy 3-point shooter I've ever seen. He was so hesitant to take them, but Markkanen will take them with no problem. And Kevin Love organically raises their 3-point shooting attempts as well too. But like the Cavs are going to have a pretty similar offensive approach. I feel they just may play at a faster pace and play to the strengths of their youth and athleticism.
I have a counter to that. Let's hit pause. We'll come back to that after the break. And Evan, we got another
build. Let's bet on it.
Do it.
We're back and we're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron. In fact, we're recording this on Thursday night, I don't have the Jags Bengals game on, but if I was a betting man, I bet the Jaguars, and I feel good right now because they're up 7-0. And it's thanks to our friends at BetOnline. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With a new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Do not forget to use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive that 50% welcome bonus. From football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, do not wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts, and they are also, get this, folks, the exclusive betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Isn't that neat?
Okay, so here's just my counterpoint to that. Again, this is also a very wait and see thing. I'm very.
Oh no, I agree, but I'm reading the tea leaves a bit, and I feel like the Cavs are gonna have the same approach as last year, just at a faster pace.
I just don't know if I think they're going to be that stubborn. And I think if you also look at the natural evolution of the guys that they have, so Garland, Sexton, I think the Markkanen presence, I think there's just going to be a natural uptick in sort of the personnel. And I think when JB was talking about, one of the things he said about the rim was just we want to put pressure on the rim and kick out. And if you can organize things now, even if it's kind of simple, and even if your baseline first 20 games of your offense is still sort of very basic and straightforward and based on just a few kind of basic concepts, that's a thing coaches do. I mean, there's a lot of coaches in every sport that way. What you see the first part of the season is just what they feel like they need to nail down before they add in other concepts and stuff. I'm just saying that's a possibility of where we're kind of headed here. I just tend to think there's just no way there is the way they're talking about it, what I sort of understand about what Garland's kind of approach is going to be in a lot of stuff, what I think Sexton's sort of role might kind of be. I just think they're going to take more threes. And I think that's where a Windler kind of gets himself into this. But the other guy we kind of got, and I just tend to think that there is going to be some kind of evolution just based on the personnel being a little bit different. And just, I'm taking him at his word that I think pace and the kicking out and putting pressure on the rim leads me to think there's going to be kind of a more, they're not going to become the Houston Rockets, but I think they're going to make an emphasis to kind of try to cut out some of those junk shots in the middle of the floor, long twos and stuff like that. But the other guy we should talk about is Cedi Osman, who spoke on Thursday, and he basically sounded like, my role last year. I don't know my role is yet. And it sounds like he doesn't exactly have a guaranteed playing time, which I think is good. I think it's clear that they're going to make Cedi earn some stuff. And I don't necessarily think that him and JP were always vibing last year, let's say.
Yeah, Cedi was wildly erratic last season. If you're a regular listener of the show, I always say he's a peak and valleys player, where Cedi will have a game or two where he looks awesome. Consistent 3-point shooter, provides some playmaking, tertiary playmaking, some primary playmaking, plays a little bit of defense. Like, you're like, great. This is what Cedi Osman should be like at his apex. And then he just completely craters and he's like 0 of 8 from 3, playing lackluster defense, has too many sloppy turnovers, just like a lot of that. But then he puts like a consistent string of games together like that where fans are like, fuck this guy, pull the hook on him. This kept going for a little bit. And then eventually JB Bickerstaff got frustrated because then Jetty became a gunner for this team. And he had a really bad stretch where he's like, we need to shoot more threes like the Jazz. I think.
But it's like funny because like when I'm thinking about the Cavs personnel and I'm thinking about the kind of players they have, what did the Jazz do? They moved the ball. They were really precise. They had a to the rim, and like you could argue that like that's not like a dissimilar thing. I understand the Jetty is maybe not the guy you want saying that, but it's like I could talk myself into that being a team the Cavs like learned some stuff from. Honestly.
Oh no, I think it's a good thing to emulate the Utah Jazz. Yeah, like people can dog Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell and the Jazz all they want.
Brought to you by David Locke, paid for by
the namesake of the podcast is at the top of the screen, folks. We know where our checks come from, but the Tegna. But at the same time, yeah, like the Jazz are a good team to emulate. Like, yeah, they're a really good team. Why wouldn't you want to emulate them? But at the same time, the Cavs also don't have the same personnel as the Utah Jazz do right now to play at that level. And I think Jetty trying to like break the mold and like change the Cavs himself was just an interesting development. And he was kind of
way of putting it. That's a kind way of putting it.
I'm trying to be positive. JB and his staff pulled the hook. You and I gathered that like he was benched because they just wanted him to say like you need to calm the fuck down and like you'll slowly earn your minutes back. And then he did. And then the Cavs had to lean on him too much. And then he shot himself out of game. Shot the Cavs out of games again, back and forth, rinse, repeat. But I think the problem is like the power of hindsight. You know, you reflect on the season. I think that's a humbling experience to say like I got benched and like. No disrespect to Lamar Stevens, but Lamar Stevens is an undrafted dude who can't hit a shot. He's playing way more minutes than me. Like that, I'm sure that's humbling for Jetty to have to go through that. And like,
well, and if you think about Stevens, who like we both like, was a guy that like when they used him on offense last year, he basically played the role of a big. They're like, we like they're gonna suck up the spacing on the floor because they're gonna just not come out on you. And like that, you could see how they used him. They had him diving to the rim quite a bit.
Yep. So I think Jetty's just being honest and realizing like I don't have a guaranteed spot in this rotation. I don't think he's going to necessarily be a specialist like Dean Wade or even Lamar Stevens. I think Stevens is more of a defensive specialist and like Chris said, plays him like a big. Dean Wade is the interesting one here. He's a 4, but the Cavs could employ him to 3 or deploy him as a 3 at times because JB Bickerstaff has done that in the past and wouldn't surprise me.
Well, I don't even think that. I don't think that's it. I think does he play with Mobley on nights Kevin Love doesn't play, where Mobley plays the 5 and then Wade like plays like the spacing 4 role.
So like
I think that's to me is more
that's intriguing. I think
Dean Wade tries hard, shoots a lot of threes. He's not
plays defense.
Can't defend wing. But he can't. He's not
going to defend a wing. He plays interior defense, is what I'm saying. He has active hands. But I'm saying he's a JB Bickerstaff type player. He has active hands. That's like the calling card of a JB Bickerstaff defensive player is like, are you active in deflecting the ball? Because the Cavs tracked that dumb metric for Larry Nance for the longest time. I'm just like, cool. What does it mean? Nothing.
Okay, here's this thing on Jetty. Here's the thing. If Cedi Osman has a year where like he is more akin to what he was in 2019 and 2020, and last year is just an off year for him. Here's the thing. Last year, here's his numbers from last year. 59 games. 55 games played. 59 games played. Okay. Shot 55% of his shots were from 3. He was 29.7% from 3 overall. 41.4% of his shots, like a massive chunk of his shots, was catch and shoot 3-point attempts. 30.7% on those. And 12.5% of those shots overall were pull-up 3-pointers, 23.6%. Those are abysmal numbers. Those are like absolutely atrocious numbers. 2 years ago, 2019-20, 2019-20, the year the season ended early because of the pandemic. 52.7% of his shots, 3-pointers, 38.1%. Is almost 5 attempts per game. 38.8% on about 4 attempts per game on catch and shoot. 36.8% on pull-ups. If Cedi Osman is close to those numbers, if that is like the real Jetty versus last year, And last year's just weird, and it just like becomes like an anomaly. And he like adds some of the little tertiary playmaking we know he can do, and he buys in on defense and stuff and whatever. And I think that's like probably one of the bigger concerns. I think if you talk to some people in the organization, like they would tell you that Jetty's defense, they think Jetty's, a lot of people don't really think Jetty's defense is particularly good. Let's say, I tend to think
you're being kind
that
there.
I was. I tend to think that like he could be kind of like an option if he just like if those numbers are more accurate. Like if just like those numbers are more accurate, I just like stare at that. I'm just like, okay, like this works.
But the
like,
thing is, do the Cavs really have any other choice? If you if you held a gun to my head right now and said you have to choose between Dylan Willer, Jetty Osman, Lamar Stevens, and Denzel Valentine to be the primary backup of Isaac Okoro, I'd say Jetty Osman. I'd just roll the dice with him. At least at least you know he can hit threes. He just may not hit a lot of them.
So let me just ask you this, and maybe we'll talk about this. This is like a question. I think we could unpack some of the back end rotation stuff about style of play maybe next week. But if I were to tell you that based on load management and stuff with Kevin and whatever, that you're gonna basically have two of those four guys or one of those guys and Dean Wade playing, which option would you prefer? If I was gonna say it's like you get Jetty plus Dean Wade or Lamar Stevens plus Dean Wade. Like if you're gonna pick one of those guys and then plus Dean Wade, which one of those options would you prefer?
Lamar Stevens and Dean Wade. I like Lamar Stevens a lot. It's not even just the Bill DiFilippo joke. Like I genuinely enjoy watching Lamar Stevens play because he actually tries really hard on both ends, and there's something commendable about a dude who's going to be the back end of your rotation doing that. That's all. Jetty can float sometimes, and he can be frustrating, and he's a win for the Cavs front office because he was a second-round pick that turned into a somewhat useful rotation player, and then the Cavs overexpanded his role and asked too much of him, and then they've kind of had to ask him to scale it back a little bit.
I would go two wings, for the record. I would go like one of Jetty and Windler and Lamar and see where that gets you.
Well, I mean, I'd go Jetty and Lamar. I'd go Lamar first, though. But I like Dean Wade a lot, too. Dean Wade's also
I'm just saying, like, if I'm saying I'm picking two wings or a wing and a big, I want the two wings. I want to see if the Cavs can kind of thread that needle a little bit more because they have a lot of bigs.
This isn't a team that's like and I quote like modern basketball. They need wings to play and I quote modern basketball.
Yeah, and I think like if you're talking about like switchability, if you're talking about playing faster, like I think the wings will allow you to do that. And like Lamar is like a cutter and like a guy that's gonna like if he gets out on the break and catches pass. Like there's just like low hanging fruit. I think that is easier to get if you play a little smaller and faster with wings. But again, like we need to see how all this is gonna play out. We need to see like what sort of what choices JB makes and what choices like everyone starts making once we kind of get into the season. It's still an open question in a lot of ways. But Evan, let's wrap it up there. We'll be back on Monday with more. Evan I am one of my friends is getting married, so I will not be tweeting or covering or at the Wine and Gold scrimmage. Evan will be covering it, so we'll talk about his.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if I got approved for credits yet, but if I did, I will be. And if I didn't, I'll just be covering it from home.
Well, regardless, we'll have some takes about that on Monday and takes about other Cavs things. And if there are Cavs preview things you want us to talk about, lockedoncavs@gmail.com, email us, and we'll give you a shout out on the show if you help us come up with some questions you want answered about this team. And we'll do a live and stuff next week. We got a ton of fun stuff coming. The season is very, very close. I think there's a preseason. Is there a preseason game like next Tuesday? Something like that? The 5th?
I think you might be correct. I think they're in Chicago, but I'm double checking.
Yes, the Denzel Valentine homecoming game.
Yeah, they're in Chicago next Tuesday. Then they're in Atlanta the following night, and then they're home against Indiana that Friday. And I am out of town Friday, Sunday, and then the 15th I'll be back. And that's their final. It's weird, man. They have 5 days off between their 4th preseason game and their 5th one.
Yeah, fun times. Anyway, we'll be back. We'll cover all that and more here on the pod.
Cleveland.
Yes. Everyone, be well. Have a good weekend, and talk to y'all soon.
Deuces.